and welcome to Paradigm Playbook, a podcast for entrepreneurs in the business of sports. Your hosts, Dave Kozak and Steve Cook, are business owners, successful entrepreneurs, sports enthusiasts, avid readers, and longtime friends. For years, they've read every business book on the market and built successful companies with what they've learned. This podcast will give you the critical takeaways in just 15 minutes a week. It's a quick and easy playbook for building a winning sports business. And now, here are your hosts, Dave and Steve.
If you have any business-related questions, feel free to send them over to us at paradigmplaybook.com. We're here to help.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Paradigm Playbook's podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kozak, alongside my co-host, Mr. Steve Cook.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, it is. So we have an interesting one to discuss today. It started with the conversation in prep for the podcast about strategic thinking, and then it sort of was inspired further by this 7 surprising traits of highly strategic thinkers, and it sort of, I think, is a good conversation starter. When I stumbled across the 7 surprising traits, I've always considered myself a pretty strategic thinker, and it really hit home with me.
I kind of always claimed that I could think things through, and I like problem solving, which I think strategic thinking falls in there. But I've got to admit, when I first read this, I went into it with a very deep denial. It's like, the first point it came to, I said, well, no, that's not right. And then the more I read it, the more I got thinking about it. And so I think what we need the audience to do is hang with us through the discussion. We'll go back and forth, but as you think about it, put yourself to the test. And you don't have to fit into the box. So it's
correct.
Okay if you're not a strategic thinker. And most businesses aren't flush with 6 strategic thinkers. But if you are that person and you're going to lead that discussion, it's important to know these characteristics, whether they're strengths or weaknesses. You can debate that, but you need them involved. Yeah. So, with that kind of warning, let's go into it. And we're welcome to any feedback. Obviously, send us your comments if you agree or disagree with this discussion. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and this was by Alex M.H. Smith, was the person who wrote it. So I'm not taking credit for it. I find it to be spot on for me. The first is that you're bad with detail. The second is that you're naturally contrarian. The third is that you're action-oriented. The fourth is that you're radically honest. The fifth is that you take responsibility. The sixth is that you're a great writer. And the seventh is that you're kind of unprofessional. And it's funny because the word kinda is in this, and that's kind of unprofessional. So let's hit on number 1, bad with detail.
Yeah, so that would appear on surface as a negative. Okay, that's a shortcoming of me as a strategic thinker. But it can be a strength if you're not getting all tangled up in the details of a project before you settle on the strategic imperative of where you're going with this whole thing.
Yeah, I use an expression in my company that I run, and I say, don't get down in the weeds that you don't need to be in, right? And I think a lot of times, if you are too into the details too early in a process, a project, a formulation, you start creating roadblocks that you don't need to deal with right now. And so, bad with detail, the way I see it is, I'm bad with detail. When I'm being strategic, I'm bad with detail. But I know that I've got a team of detail-oriented people that are going to take care of the details. I'm in a strategic thinking role. I'm not trying to, and I use the the litigation piece with you before. Like a litigator should be a good strategic thinker because they've got to argue a case, right? And when if I'm in that role, like I'm not worried about all the case law. I'm trying to think through the strategy. Someone else can dig into the case law and tell me why it's right, how we can get there.
Yeah, and I think being bad with detail, and I will say, I think you're bad with it when you're doing strategic thinking. Yeah. In another situation, you may when you're reviewing your budget, you may be all about details, but that's not strategic thinking. That's analysis. So I think it's different there. And also, in the process of strategic thinking, I don't think it means you're in denial of the need for detailed people.
Correct.
It's just that in this setting, it can't be where your head is. I got a real quick question. We're going to take a survey here in the studio. So when we started the thought of this discussion about the 7 characteristics, was there a famous person that came to mind as a great strategic thinker to you?
Yeah, I mean, you have Elon Musk, who I think is a good one. Steve Jobs is a good one. I mean, those are the big names that you could talk about, but I think there's other fantastic strategic thinkers out there. If you've done reading on Abraham Lincoln, I think he was a pretty good strategic thinker. He was, again, different era, different time. So what was acceptable then, contrarian wise, is different than today. But I think Jobs and Musk are probably pretty good strategic thinkers.
Niall, did you come up with? If you're not on mic, I can repeat it for you if you just tell me. Peyton Manning. Okay. That's when you, I also landed on Musk, but I do that with a lot, and I'm in the process of reading that book. So that may have an effect. But I also thought of Bill Belichick, and, being a Philadelphia Eagles fan, Bill Belichick's not my favorite go-to person, but it's hard to deny.
Did you watch
as a strategic thinker?
Did you watch that documentary?
I did not yet.
You should, because he makes no qualms about it. He's not. That's not. Now, he cared about the details when it came down to execution, but his strategic thought, he knew what it took, and that's what you're going to do.
And when you look at all the, his tree, they talk about coaching trees, and the tree that left Bill Belichick, and they went with high regard and got high level positions, but the success level of that tree isn't great. When you look at it, it's interesting. It's not like the
Holmgren. Wasn't it Mike Holmgren?
They've all got better trees of success, but he did hold his coordinators to detail, and a lot of time it was frustrating to them because he wasn't going to get into the weeds with it, as you said, but he expected magnificence from them. So, the detail piece is, I think it's real interesting. And, the more I thought about it in a strategic, I'm trying to decide, where we're going with this product line or which way we're going to steer this business. I don't think about, who's going to teach it or what are the hours going to be or what are we going to charge. I look at the mega view of. Well,
and that's where when you bring up the second point, which is to be you're naturally contrarian. That's where I go to Steve Jobs, right? Everything you've ever read about Steve Jobs, he was contrarian from the start. He wasn't trying to do the same thing the next person was. He was trying to do the opposite of that. He was trying to mold things together, to create new, to innovate. And I think a lot of the worst phrase in business is, this is how we've always done it, right? That's the worst. And so a strategic thinker is never going to say, this is how we always done it. This is how I want to do it moving forward. This is what we want to do. Why don't we do, if that didn't work, do the opposite of that, right?
Yeah, Steve Jobs was great at taking other people's ideas that they had kind of couched. And, I remember the story about, the mouse and how he's going to have a handheld device that was going to move a cursor on the screen without being connected. It's like, I think it was Xerox that had that for years, and there was no use for it. And he saw it one time and his eyes light up. And before he spilled the beans of what he was going to steal, he had to get out of that room. So there's great stories about the details. But you're right, Jobs would go in and, his vision was, we're going to create this in this time frame, and it's this 6 months. And they'd say, well, it's going to take at least 2 years. And he would say, great, you have 6 months. So it's like he was going to be contrarian to everybody that was dealing in detailed logic and taken in a different direction.
Yeah, and I blue ocean strategy is that natural contrarian environment, right? Stay out of the shark infested waters. What is your unique piece? What are you doing differently than everybody else, right? We know differentiation is a huge thing, but in the strategic thought, the origin of it, right? It is typically in a contrarian environment that is going to follow through, right? So I learned a lesson a long time ago in business, which was, and zag is another, right? But when everybody's doing this, do that, right? When everybody else is, I'll talk about, we send a lot of mailers out. Okay, you send mailers? Oh my God, with the reach you can have on Facebook and great, you can have that reach. That is a constant effort to get it in front of people, to have it be relevant, to have it be up front. That requires a team of people, a consistent daily activity. If I drop a mailer and it shows up in your mailbox, I've got a good shot of you at least looking at it. Whether you rip it up and throw it away or not, doesn't matter. Mail has become the less important and the easier way to get into the household. So we never went away from mail except for when the post office shut down through COVID. But it's that being contrarian, right? People tell me mail doesn't work. Well, I can show you it does.
Yeah, I think in sports, it's we're particularly, I remember, there was one way to shoot a foul shot in basketball. And I don't know if people remember Hal Greer. Hal Greer was an old-time shooting guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. And, there was people all over the country that are teaching how to shoot a foul shot, hold the ball this way, get your hand behind the ball, release the ball with your fingers, and, backspin on the ball, all that. Hal Greer shot a jump shot. And he was a contrarian in that. And the coach at the time, I remember Alex Hannum being the coach, and Hal Greer's philosophy was that I only want to practice one shot. So every shot's a jump shot. Okay, so it's different thinking. It's contrarian thinking. And others were saying, well, why jump when in this one you don't need to? It's making it more complicated. So there's two schools of thought, but it is a contrarian thinking, and he becomes very strategic. And by the way, he was a good foul shooter.
There's another guy that did the underhand shot. I forget who that was.
Yeah, that was Costello, Larry Costello. Yeah, he was like one of the last ones to do the underhand shot. But there was obviously some, there was a lot of strategy in that. And I think the thing that killed it was it didn't look cool.
Yeah.
I think that's why everybody left it. And today, if you go out on the schoolyard, and you take a shot that way, I can tell you one thing for sure, you ain't getting picked. You're not next up.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's move on to the third point they make in this, which is their strategic thinkers are action-oriented. I can't even describe how action-oriented I am.
Yeah, so I'm with you on this one, and this is the one I related to first because this is me. There is no doubt in my mind that I am a ready, fire, aim person, and it's like I get the idea, and so the proof to me is in the doing. So that's why I think action-oriented is we really want to find out. Let's go do this and see if it works. That to me, one failed doing is better than 25 surveys to ask people if you think this will work.
To quote one of the most brilliant minds this country's ever known, Benjamin Franklin, well done is better than well said.
Yeah.
Right. And, you asked in the beginning, strategic thinkers, man, founding fathers of this country were pretty strategic in their thinking.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you think that
Thomas
the
Jefferson,
framing of the Constitution is probably the most remarkable document ever written, and that'll drive us right into another step here in strategic thinking. But I think action oriented, and as an entrepreneur, part of your strategy is to try things. And I talk about when I was I went to Jeff Metzger's boot camp. Jeff he's run 74 boot camps. And these are workshops for entrepreneurs, most of which are in the gymnastics business. Mm-hmm. But one of the sessions he does is he unveils his graveyard. And these are all things that he did, not talked about, considered, planned, whatever. He did that didn't work. I mean, there's a lot. And, ever since I was there, I've been swearing I was going to put my graveyard together because mine might beat his. I don't know. But I think that's what you get out of action. But I also get things that other people don't try, so I can kind of dominate the market. One of my things is, when someone said, "Do you think you can teach baseball to a 4-year-old?" I didn't survey 4-year-olds or their parents or anything else. And this is me. I just said, yes. When are they going to be here? Let's go. Well, whether that was luck or strategic thinking, I don't know. But action was my first step. Yeah,
no doubt about it. So the next point they make, number 4, is strategic thinkers are radically honest. Man, this one's gotten me in trouble. I shouldn't say in trouble, but from my wife to colleagues to I'll get this. How did you just say that? I don't know. It is what it is. It needed to be said, so it was said. I call it radical candor, right? And I practice it no matter what.
So I think for the strategic thinking and strategic planning, we're talking primarily about internal circles. So radical candor is probably not your number one marketing go-to.
No.
But in internal strategic planning, radical candor or radical honesty is the number one thing I think that saves time.
If you know a coach, teacher, or business owner who could use our help, please refer them to us. We appreciate your support.
100%. And there's people tend to sweep things under the rug and they fester and it comes back, or the exact thing you didn't want to happen happens because you didn't speak up, you didn't say it, you didn't voice your opinion. And it's not always popular. I mean, we did a video yesterday, and we were creating a training video for how to run one of the appointments that we have in our operation, and it did not go well. I was not running it. I was playing one of the parents in the scenario, and upon completion, I said, stop the video and restart the video because I'm about to go very critical on what just happened. And I couldn't leave that room unless I said what I had to say. It just wasn't going to happen, right? And so, being radically honest, and that was strategic thinking in what was going on, because I could see it. The way the meeting progressed was not how I want the meeting to progress, and it was in that moment, okay, I've got to do something about this right now. And so, I think you're always going to see that honesty. So
I think that if you're doing any kind of strategic planning and you're missing the person that has got the radical candor, you're on a dead end street. You're going nowhere, because and I've referred to it, that the term that I got, I think from the book Fish, but the sweaty palm conversation, and that's that radical honesty that people avoid saying those things. And the only reasoning you can get is at that moment, it's more important to be liked or popular than honest. Yeah. And so that's where it's like you can't picture Elon Musk not saying something because someone might not like me. It's like you just don't see that happen. And as a leader, as an entrepreneur, the faster that you can get to this point of radical candor, and it's hard to put these traits in order, but this may be the most important thing if you're going to lead an organization. And it's got to be radical candor means you'll say the truth in your opinion to anyone, and position, rank, none of that matters. So it's, the times I've told my, and sometimes he got me in trouble, but the times I told my boss, I thought that, he was full of shit. It's like, I can't believe you told, well, do you agree with me? And they said, well, yeah, sure. I wasn't going to be the one to say it. So I think whether that's self-confidence or stupidity, I'm not sure, but it's honest, and it serves the purpose. So strategic thinking, you're trying to get to a new plan, a new outcome, something new, something creative. And without it, I just don't see it happen. We get back to, that's not how we do it. We've never done it that way. That's the stumbling block that you say, kills most ideas. Bless you.
Excuse me. So the one thing I have started to do in my radical candor, so that people don't feel like they just got bashed over the head, I'll ask them, Steve, you got your big boy pants on right now? Because I'm coming at you. So I try and give people we used to use the term constructive criticism, right? I love it. I think it's what it's all about. But people take that as criticism has taken a different toll on society now. Like, you can't be critical of anything. And I'm going, not in my world.
It's so interesting. Something just came to my mind that is just so in the world of sports, that's where most of our audience lives, and that's where we are. And constructive criticism is where we live. That's how you coach. If you don't constructively criticize, you're not a coach. That's the only thing you do. But then why do we turn that off when we go into a staff meeting? Yeah. Why, when we walk in to have a discussion or do a review with our boss, why do we turn it off at that point? Yet it's how we live and how we make our living. And it's really, that's interesting.
It is. And all of a sudden you go from being a student to being a professional, right? And this is where a lot of people fail. Just because you are a professional in some industry it doesn't mean you're an expert, right? And until you can teach it, right, you haven't mastered it. And then hopefully you teach it to a point where someone else gets it better and you start to learn from the person you taught. That's life, right?
Yeah, sometimes we get enamored with the person we're talking to, and it's like the best athlete on your team is often the hardest one to criticize, because somehow you worry about them taking it as you're not great, and that's not at all what you mean by it. It's not what we mean by it in a business setting either. I remember a situation, and I've talked about this before, when Raul Ibanez was with the Phillies, and for secrecy reasons, he was training at our facility, and he brought his own coach, and Kevin Seitzer was his coach. And it's not secret that he was doing it there. It was secret at the time. But anyway, he would come in, and I remember Kevin Seitzer throwing a ball low and outside every pitch, 2 hours, low and outside. And he says, it's like, why don't you teach him? Because the son of a bitch can't hit that. He can't hit it. And he was not going to be nice to Raul Ibanez, but that's why he was there, because he was the one that would have the radical candor. So the next time you go into a staff meeting and your boss says, we're going to do this. And if you don't agree with it, it's okay to be honest and bring it up then, because if the boss believes enough in it, he's got to be able to defend it. But if you don't disagree, you're not giving him that chance.
Yeah. Which
Okay,
leads
I know
on leads on to the next one, which is strategic thinkers take responsibility. I have said to everyone, if you have the ability, you have the responsibility. If you can take action, you should take action. If you can, you should. And for me, accountability and responsibility have been something I just strive for all the time. Like, I want it. Yeah, put it on my shoulders. Put me to the test and let me show you what's up. That's what I want. And so I think that one is 100%. Like,
yeah, that one's kind of easy. And as an entrepreneur, you're running your own business. It's all your responsibility. So it's like, that one is rather easy for me. Someone comes in and says, my son didn't get enough at-bats during camp this week. I say, okay, that's on me. Let me have a talk with the coach and find it, So, but it all starts with, that's on me.
Yep.
And that pulls everybody into the loop. And, in customer service, we see it all the time. As soon as you take responsibility, someone jumps to your side.
Yep.
And you find, so in strategic thinking, you have to take responsibility for what worked and what didn't work and what's changing. And so when you get hit with the what if, okay, we're gonna start this new program, and we're gonna teach hip hop dancing in the ballet studio. What if it doesn't work? Well, that's on me. So I think that's where you have to
100%.
So that one, I agree. That one's the easiest.
I'll add
one to take.
one piece to this, because over my career I've learned this, and this is a very valuable takeaway. Good leaders, and this is not about strategic thinking. I just want to branch off to leadership for a second. Good leaders take responsibility for the failures and give credit to others for the success. That's something that's huge in this, right? Where if it fails, hey, it's on me. But if it's successful, hey man, you knocked that out of the park. This is all because of your effort. This is, they give the accolades. I never.
Yeah. So the other thing in leadership, I think accolades are given in a group setting, and criticism is more on a one-to-one. And just because you're taking responsibility, you're not absolving someone else of responsibility. So you still have to hold them accountable. And if you're not holding them accountable, regardless of who it is, so you take responsibility, but hold them accountable, whether you're holding it upstream or downstream. It's you can't blame it on an assistant and not blame it on a boss. Mm-hmm. So either way, so responsibility is.
The next one is all strategic thinkers are great writers. This is the hardest of all of them, in my opinion, from a strategic side, because, and I agree with it 100%. And it took me, I didn't become a great writer until I was probably 30. Maybe even 35. I always had the capability. I could always communicate very clearly, but I didn't take the same time that I do now to be as poignant as I possibly can in the objective set forth, the reasons for that, and the to avoid all, not avoid, but to diminish all opposing arguments to it, right? So when I write something about a strategic thought or vision, it's laid out. You know what I'm doing.
So I 100% agree with this, and it's the one piece of advice I give to all entrepreneurs. The three things I tell everybody, that I work with to improve their business. One, get out of your business more. Get outside. You don't know what's going on in the world. Get outside, and then write more and speak more. And I don't mean speak more to your wife or to your partner. I mean, like, get on a stage and speak. That's what you have to do. So the thing about writing is it forces strategic thinking.
Yep.
Because if you're going to organize this, and it's like it's interesting. Everybody knows I just completed writing my book, and to write the book, I wrote what I felt was at least 500 great pages, and my co-writers, ghostwriters, whatever, said, okay, this is great. We got 200 good pages here. So it's just a matter of strategically finding the 200 out of 500 that are worth printing.
100%. 100%.
So writing is important. Everybody, if you do nothing else, write something today. And whether you're on, Substack or you're on LinkedIn, there's places, even if you go write 3 important sentences a week on LinkedIn, it's how you start communicating and people start getting your ideas. But 3 sentences is going to force you to put your thoughts together strategically.
Absolutely. And then number 7, and we'll end with this, is strategic thinkers are kind of unprofessional. This one I go right back to Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah, he wasn't kind of unprofessional. He was like... So that was the one book, Steve Jobs, that I read the book, and I just swung back and forth between loving the guy and hating him, every chapter.
Yeah, and they say in the little write-up, there's time for process and a time for professionalism, but strategizing is not it. It requires freewheeling, playful, mischievous approach that is more at home in the bar than in the boardroom. That's where the breakthroughs occur. Take it out of the office is the how to practice it. And so every single business I've conceived, every major strategy that I've done was there was probably a golf club, a cigar, a glass of scotch in my hand, a leaning against a bar or leaning against a club or sitting in a golf cart where the origin took place. And that origin happens, and then it's like, okay, off to the races. How am I going to get it done? What's the action steps? And then all of that stuff ensues. So I don't want to say it's kind of unprofessional, but I also like, if I was given a presentation a month ago to 100 financial advisors, and I was talking about how our model is set up so we can do property and casualty insurance, we can do life insurance, we can do mutual funds, we can do sort of the whole gamut. The guy in the back of the room raised his hand and he said, well, aren't you like, don't people feel like you're just trying to take their money? And I was like, I thought about it for a second. I said, and then I turned around and I said to him, in this presentation, 100 advisors in the room, I said, I don't know if you know this, but I'm from Philly and I don't care. And the reason I put that out there was like, that is your own head trash. I'm protecting their assets they have. I'm building the assets they're going to gain. I'm creating a portfolio and a plan and a model and all this. It's like protecting what they have is just part of it. But the idea is like, no, I don't care about that at all. I don't think that way. I don't have that. And so that was that kind of unprofessional moment where I said, I'm from Philly. I don't care. And that was a play on, the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and no one likes us. We're from Philly.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. And so I'll tell you a real quick story, an unprofessional, and this is my partner, Steve Cass, who is a listener to us. So this was way before we were partners, but we were in a meeting and we were looking at taking on a line of stopwatches. This is back when there was mechanical. You used to have a button. It wasn't on your phone or your watch, but you had a button that you pushed, and and we were talking about how we were going to market these, how we were going to sell them, and one of the key points that the CEO of this stopwatch company was making is, you can train in the rain because these are waterproof. And with that, my partner drops it in his glass of water and it stops. So was that unprofessional or was that the best comeback ever? So if we're going to sell this, we got to believe in this. So a little unprofessional. I don't know. No one ever criticized him for it. It was a great move.
It was a great move.
Anyway.
Did you get a discount?
What? So, we went on to sell that. We probably sold, $2 million worth of stopwatches, based on us understanding it, though. But it's now it's a product that's not sold at all or much. But anyway, yeah. So just a quick review. You want to go back and give us the 7?
So So I'll do what it is, and then they give a little write-up on how to practice it, and I think it's a great conclusion to the episode here. So number one, strategic thinkers are bad with detail. They say how to practice. Try to explain the gist of the situation rather than giving all the info. The second is naturally contrarian. Keep asking where you disagree with competitors. Then the third one is to be action oriented. Don't talk about the strategy, talk about the strategic acts instead. The fourth one is radically honest. Explain how your strategy contradicts what you thought before. Number five, take responsibility. Admit that your strategy is just an opinion and own it. Great writers, start writing in public, i.e. LinkedIn, as much as you can. And then the kind of unprofessional, they say, take it out of the office.
Yeah. So great conversation today. This was really fun. And if you like this, we'd like to hear your comments, and, we'll keep digging into these, kind of these side games.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. That's been Paradigm Playbook's podcast. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share, and have a great day.
Everybody, make it a wonderful day.
Did we help you learn, grow, and improve? Leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. Thank you.